All right, guys, so we're gonna start with this lab sheet that you were given. Basically, all you're really looking at is filling out the table to start with. So the first thing you need to do is recognize that if you've gone 0 time, you go 0 distance. So that's not something new to you guys. You've been doing that from the beginning. So you can go ahead and fill in the 2 blanks here with a 0 and a 0, because you guys know you're not going any distance. That's not something new that you have to worry about. Now, in 1 hour, it does look a little bit different, because in 1 hour, going 50 miles per hour, you're going 50 distance, because you're going 50 miles in 1 hour. And that's going to look different for these other ones because you're going 55 miles per hour and 60 miles per hour based on what you're seeing up at the top. Right here and right here. Okay, so that is going to be a little bit different, and I'm going to try to keep my colors consistent for you guys so that you can see that. So this is going to be 55. Ooh, that's ugly. Hang on. Let me erase that and try again. 55. Okay, and this is going to be 60. Whoops. Let me do that in red so that it stays consistent. 60. Okay, and then we go to 2 hours. 2 hours. Okay, and that is 100 for this first one, because 50 times 2 is 100. Now 55 times 2 is not 100. 55 times 2 is 110. So I'm going to use my blue and I'm going to put 110, because 50 plus 50 is 100 and 5 plus 5 is 10. Okay, 60 times 2, or 2 hours going 60 miles per hour, would be 120. Okay, so that is how we're filling this out. We are taking the speed and multiplying it times the hours. Okay, and that gives us the distance. Okay, another word for speed is rate. Okay, those are equivalent language words. Okay, they are the same thing, and often you will see it written as rate or R. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video and finish the table. All right, now that you've finished the table, we're going to start thinking about an equation, okay? We do know a few things. We know the rate, okay? And we know that we are going to need to multiply the rate times the time to get the distance. So we are given 2 different variables. We have D for distance and T for time. Okay, so D for distance and T for time means that we're going to say that our our distance is being multiplied by that 50 to give us the time. So that would be our first equation for A. Okay, your job is to pause the video and create the equations for B and C. So I'll come back in a second and do that with you. Okay, so a couple things that you probably noted or should have noted is that D is not going to change and that T is not going to change. Okay, for both of these equations, you're still going to have D and it's all going to equal T. Whoops, not 6, T. Okay, my pen has a mind of its own. Okay, and we're going to be multiplying for both of these. The only thing that should change is that number, and that's because our rate changed, okay? And that's here. So we're going to put 55 in here, and we're going to put 60, consistent colors, 60 in here, okay? Now, this is the kind of cool part, and you're going to need colored pencils. Yes, go get them. You are going to need them for this activity from the back of the room. Remember, everything's by the window now. For the graph here, but you are going to be graphing all of these. So you need to graph the time and distance data for all 3 speeds. Okay, I'm going to underline 3 here. all three. Whoops. I'll just highlight it. All three speeds, okay? So you're going to have 3 different colors. Now, I've already kind of given you colors, so let's go with green for the first one, yellow, or sorry, not yellow, blue for the second one, and red for the third one. You guys already probably have red crayons or colored pencils in the buckets, but you're going to need blue and green as well. So go ahead and grab those and you guys can make your graph together. Remember that time is your independent variable and distance is your dependent variable. So time should be going on the bottom. And distance should be going on the side. And you're also going to need a title. So make sure you give yourself one. Okay? Pause the video and finish this. Don't forget there's a backside that you're going to have to do as well. I don't outline that in this video, but you will have to complete that. Okay? And then this can go in your home folder. Okay? And go talk to the teacher about part B. Okay, so this is part B. It is similar to what you just did. What I'd like you to do is I'd like you to put this in your notebook, and we know that you have graphing notebooks, so you have graphs that you can use for this. So you need to graph your own graph. Remember, if your graphing notebook has squares, you should be using the squares to create your graph. Okay, and there will be no negatives. So this is just a 1 quadrant graph, but yours should look prettier than mine because you're putting it on your graphing paper in your notebook. So this nice, lovely piece of paper that you are going to get from the sub should be cut and pasted into your notebook. Okay, so make sure you do that first. Okay, my recommendation here is to first read the questions and make sure you understand them. So it says a smartphone plan charges 3 cents per text message. Use the table. What is the cost of 1,000 text messages for 1,725 text messages? Okay, use the table. How many text messages were sent in a month if the charge for the messages was $75, $60, or $18? Okay, how is the monthly charge C? Oh, that is a variable. Make sure you understand that. For text messages related to the number of texts N. They gave you your 2 variables. Write an equation that represents the monthly charges, okay? So how is the cost related? Which means that the cost is what it's going to equal. Got it? So C, whoop, yeah. Sorry, you guys can't see that very well. C equals what? Okay, that should be the only thing on that side. And then use the equation you wrote to find the cost of 1,250 text messages. Here's the cool thing. You can use your calculator. Yes, I said it, and I will write it to make sure you understand that the calculator is allowed for this activity. You can use the calculator. Okay? That means you can't watch this video while you're doing it though. So you need to come off this video, go do that, and come back for the answers. Okay, so 0 is obviously 0. Now for this, what are we gonna have to do? I think 0.03 times 500. Okay, and like I said, you can use your calculator, but if you're not using your calculator, you know that 3 times 0 is 0, and 3 times 0 is 0, and 3 times 5 is 15. Okay, now here's the problem. It's your decimal places, because you need 2 decimal places since this has 2 decimal places. Okay, so you would say $15. Okay, so then this would be 15, which you can check with a calculator, but trust me, it is. This would be 30, and it's going up by 15s, as you can tell. Or sorry, the number of texts goes up by 500, which means that the charges go up by 15. So this would be 45 and 60 and 75. Okay. So that answers the question here. All right, 1,000 text messages is $30. This, however, you actually have to do some math on. So what you're going to have to do is you're supposed to take 1,725 and multiply it by 0.03. Well, 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 2 is 6 plus 1 is 7. 3 times 7 is 21. 3 times 1 is 1 plus 1 is 4. And again, we have to look at how many decimal places we have in this question. And there's 1 decimal place, 2 decimal places, which means we have 2 decimal places in our answer. So our answer would be 42.75. Okay. Then it says use the table. How many text messages were sent in the month? Now this is where our equation could have been helpful if we had it. Or we can take the money and divide it by 3 cents. So it says 75. So you're dividing that by 0.03. Okay, so that's tricky because you guys aren't used to dividing with decimals. So I would recommend you use your calculator for this. But if you're feeling very ambitious, what you can do is you can move the decimal place over to here, and you can also move it to here. So now you have 7,500, and then you can just divide that by 3, okay? And we know that 3 goes into 75 25 times, and then there's 2 zeros after that. You could also see that this was already $75, so that should come out and prove your point as 2,500 texts. Okay, for $60, you're going to do the same math, but it's also right here, 2,000 texts, and for $18, it's not right there. So you actually have to do the math there. Again, you're taking 18 and dividing it by 0.03. You're going to move the decimal place over. You got to move it twice, which means you're moving this decimal place over twice, 1, 2. Okay, which gives us, let me erase this here, and this, okay, which gives us 18,000. All right, and then doing the math, 18 divided by 3 is 6, and then you have 2 zeros, because when we subtract 18, we still have zeros, which are place values, so you'd say 600. So 600 texts. Okay, now back to our equation, which we have kind of left you hanging, so let's figure that out. Okay, so C equals something. And we know that each text costs $0.03. Okay, so C equals 0.03 times the number of texts. So there's your equation. Now, if we use the equation to find the cost of 125 texts, that means we're saying C equals 0.03 times, so I'm using parentheses, 1,250. Okay, and again, we can do that math the way we did it down here. Okay, so let's do that. We have 1,250 times 0.03, okay, which is basically saying times 3 and then have 2 decimal places. So 3 times 0 is 0, 3 times 5 is 15, carry the 1, 3 times 2 is 6 plus 1 is 7, and 3 times 1 is 3, 2 decimal places, 1, 2. So you would say $37.50. I hope this was helpful. If you've got any questions, please email me. I'd be happy to help.